Legislative Affairs Committee. I now call this meeting to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and state your name and city of residence. Seeing none, at this time I ask that all electronic devices be placed in silent mode. And committee members, this evening we have Councillors Cragen, Vice President Van Hazinga, President Zarella, and Councillor Kuchar. We will start with public comment. And if anyone in the audience would like to, we have one item on the agenda, and it's President Zarella on behalf of FATV to adopt resolution in support of Bill S41 and H91 streaming bill, media programming, and the resolution is enclosed. I'm going to read that afterwards, but I'd like to have public comment first. So if you have public comment, you have 2 minutes. Please state your name and city of residence and tell us what you'd like to say.
Good evening. Nathan Glennie, residents of Fitchburg, Massachusetts. I am here to speak in favor of this resolution. I brought this to your attention, and I am very appreciative for your consideration this evening. This streaming bill, it is the 4th time it's been on Beacon Hill, the 4th session. So that is on its 7th and 8th years. If we do not find enough support across the entire state to pass this bill, it could prove very challenging for some of our smaller towns and municipalities across the Commonwealth to continue to find funding to provide what you're watching right now on cable television, on streaming, and that's where we know our viewers are going. They go to these streaming devices, and FATV is, of course, on those. But it's important that we get our voices heard, and having a resolution from our elected officials here in Fitchburg is vital towards that movement. I think a unified voice coming from the city of Fitchburg would really help us in communicating to our elected officials at Beacon Hill that this is important, this is something we need to find a way to cross the finish line with, and if we can get letters of support and letters of resolutions from all the communities across the Commonwealth, I think that noise that we're trying to make, that positive voice that we're trying to have heard, will be received. And so tonight, I hope that you will consider this in committee level, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to respond to those at the appropriate time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glennie. Good evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Derek Cruz, Fitchburg City Councilor, Ward 6. Honorable committee members, thank you so much for taking this up this evening. I'm here to speak in support of 070-25. The media landscape is really changing out there. Streaming has changed the way we consume media. The current PEG way of dealing with our financial side for FATV and local access across the state is really going to need to adapt. So I want to thank Petitioner President Zarella as well as Nathan Glennie, Executive Director at FATV, for bringing this to our attention and for being proactive rather than reactive. I think that's what this is about. And I from the state perspective, working in the legislature, what I can tell you is that when communities join together to support things like this, it makes a big difference. It makes a big impact. One person calling their senator or their representative is fine. That'll be taken very seriously. But a coalition of people or city or municipalities really gets the attention of the state. It convinces people. It convinces legislators to take notice and to advocate for bills. So that's my full support, as is the FATV and the wonderful job that they do providing local access to Fitchburg. I think we should get behind this and get behind them. We talk a lot about supporting FATV on this body, and now we have an opportunity to do so. And I do want to thank, again, President Zarella, and acknowledge the criticism that comes about when bodies like this or local leaders get involved at the state level. I think it's foolish to think that the things that happen at the state level and even the federal level don't affect everyone in this community, each and every person. And I think it's on us to make sure that we make our voices heard so that we represent the people in this community well at the state level, at the local level, and even at the federal level, and we make our voices heard and in the face of that criticism. So thank you, President Zarella, for having the courage to do so, and has my full support. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. I'm going to read the resolution. It's not all that long. And it's item on the agenda, it's item 70-25, and it's a resolution in support of an act to modernize funding for community media programming. Whereas accessing government meetings is essential to our democracy, and the services of Fitchburg Access Television, FATV, are indispensable in providing such a service through cable and live stream, thereby expanding civic engagement and fostering inclusion through government transparency. Whereas our community values and depends upon the robust local connection provided by FATV, our community media center, through their offering of nearly 700 hours annually of local civic and sporting events, legislative meetings, and dozens of locally created programs by members of our community. Whereas the funding for community media stations is derived from a surtax on cable subscriptions and is sharply diminishing as cable subscriptions decline due to the public's changing consumption of media. Whereas streaming services have become more prevalent but are not similarly required to pay for the use of the public infrastructure, utility poles, conduits, and wires on which they rely to sell their services and derive a profit. And whereas the Massachusetts Legislature's 193rd session is considering a bill to hold streaming providers responsible for paying their fair share for the use of public infrastructure, thereby ensuring that local media stations like FATV are funded and can continue to provide the foundational democratic right to information. Be it hereby resolved that the members of the Fitchburg City Council do wholly support and vigorously urge our state delegation to hasten the passage of an act to modernize funding for community media programming. I just wanted to read that so people at home understand exactly what we're doing. And for those people who don't know, a resolution does not have the effect of an ordinance. It's a suggestion of intent to the legislature to let them know that this is how the City Council feels. So I will give that to the councilors for comment. President Zarella.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In sponsoring this, I've had numerous conversations with Nate Glennie about the subject of ensuring continued funding for FATV. And, you know, I'm not going to beat around the bush. Obviously, this applies to the entire state, and I think it's a good idea for community media across the state. But my concern is FATV. My concern is our homegrown community media, and they provide us with truly top-tier coverage. I've taken the opportunity over the last several months to browse around and look at the kind of coverage that other cities and towns of approximately our size receive, and there's just no comparison. FATV provides us with what is very literally gold standard statewide in their coverage. They cannot do so, obviously, without money. They are a nonprofit organization, but they still have bills to pay. They still have expenses. They still have to upgrade equipment, including our equipment, which they play a crucial role in updating and maintaining for us, very often at reduced or no cost to the city. If cable subscriptions continue to fall off, as they inevitably will, I mean, look around you. How many people do you know who still have cable? And of those, how many have talked about possibly cutting their cable subscription in the next year or so? Then organizations like FATV are just going to see their funding dry up, and there's no way that can be effectively replaced from the general fund or from any other alternative source that we may look at. If we want to continue receiving the excellence we've become accustomed to, then something needs to change in the funding formula. and this is a very sensible option. I'm not generally a proponent of adding taxes, but in this instance, this is an existing tax that we simply have a whole class of media providers, the streaming services, acting as essentially free riders on. Cable services are paying this tax. Streaming services are getting the benefit of all the infrastructure that this tax funds and kicking nothing into the pot. So for those reasons, I would strongly urge both this committee and I will later urge the council to unanimously approve this resolution and to urge the state to act promptly and expeditiously on this matter. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Councillor Kuchar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to agree with Councillor Zarella. As you do see people, as they say, cutting the cord or cutting the cable, the taxes that are paid for those services are decreasing exponentially every year. And I'm in full support of FATV, and we have a whole show on FATV, not to mention all the community services that they will broadcast. I think this is a no-brainer. I think we should support this, and I think I'm a definite yes.
Thank you, Councillor Kuchar. Councillor Van Hazen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the tagline of the Washington Post is "Democracy dies in darkness." And in order for us to have successful democracy, we need people to be aware of what's going on, to be participating. And we simply cannot do that without the assistance of public television. That FATV is an indispensable partner to the Fitchburg City Council and the City of Fitchburg in making sure residents are aware of what's happening, have an opportunity to participate in what's happening, and to make sure that we're in the right course as a city. So I think this is extremely important to make sure that organizations like FATV are properly funded. It's more than just a community nicety. It is a necessary part of our democracy. So I support this fully. Thank you.
Councillor Cragen.
Sure. I have nothing to add to what's already been said, because what's already been said, I think, it does a very good job of outlining the scope of what FATV does. It is really beyond reckoning that we are actually able to do this, that FATV has the staffing to provide this kind of coverage, and they have actually been adding. North Central News is a new addition, and this is local news coverage by students at Fitchburg State University, and it is very high quality. They just wrote about the HDIP event that happened downtown. They're covering Fitchburg municipal election information. They're about 2 to 3 minute, subjects, but it really is taking the place of the local news that is missing in, my beloved print media. So we have got to keep FATV, rolling on the tracks, because they're only doing more, and we should too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cragen. I just want to add, we might as well make it, 5 for 5 here. The contributions that FAT makes to local programming, to not only city government, but sporting events, all of the programming that they offer is incredible. And I think in an age where print media is not as popular, and is losing ground, it's important, especially for places who have no local paper to refer to. The local access television is the only source of information for some cities and towns. So for that reason, I agree. I would be in favor of this, and I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
A second.
I have a motion and second. I'm assuming that there will be no objection, so we'll take this by unanimous consent. Before we adjourn, I just want to ask if someone would make a motion to approve the minutes for the last meeting, since I...
So moved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Do I see any objection? Seeing none, we'll take that by unanimous consent, and that is the end of business for the Legislative Affairs Committee.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, so moved and adjourned. Pardon me?